Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan with the Laundromat Resource podcast. This is show 142, and I'm pumped you're here today because today we're going to get drastic. Charles Measley joins us on the podcast today, and his story is wild. He has gotten a very interesting story. If you don't know Charles and you don't know his story yet, strap in. You are in for a ride. It's a great story and great things come out of it too. So I don't want to tease it any more than that. I just want you to just listen to it with Charles. A couple quick things before we jump in. Actually, just one sort of big thing is new website has launched. Laundromatresource.com is brand new. Brand new look, brand new feel, brand new organization. So make sure you go check that out. And as you check that out, I just want to point out we have a couple new calculators that you can go try out for free. I think you get 3 tries for free on all the calculators. Of course, the pro community has unlimited access to all the calculators and everything, but go check out the Pro Forma calculator, which is super powerful. I'll be putting out a video about that here pretty soon on how to best utilize that. And then the other one that's also super powerful is the wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery cost calculator. That is going to help you figure out for your business how much money it costs you per pound to do a drop-off service order and a pickup and delivery service order. And that is going to factor in all of the things, including salaries, including bonuses, including mileage fees, gas, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff. All that stuff is included. It does it all for you. You've just got to input the data that you probably already have, which is pretty cool, both to make sure you're charging the correct amounts right now, currently in your business, or if you're starting up a new service, you make sure you're pricing it correctly. But also, if you're doing quotes for commercial clients and stuff like that, you can actually utilize this calculator to create a quote for a specific service, commercial service, which is pretty cool too. And then the other thing that's super powerful about it is you can actually go through and sort of tweak some of the values on it to see how it affects your margins and all of that. So anyways, I think it'll be eye-opening for a lot of people to see if they're making money or not in their pickup and delivery, because I know for a fact that some of us out here are not making money on the pickup and delivery, or not as much as we think we are. And I think there's some fairly simple tweaks we can do to make more money. So go check out that calculator, laundromatresource.com, brand new website, check it out. And in the resources tab, you'll see the calculators. You can go try them out there. All right, let's jump into it with Charles and be prepared. Just be prepared for this crazy story. All right. Charles Measley, it is about time that you have come on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I think this has been like the longest running scheduling in human history.
Man, it shows, it just demonstrates the ineptness of my scheduling capabilities.
Or my
But I'm glad
procrastination.
we finally are getting it done and are, having this, I guess, virtual face-to-face here. Maybe hopefully soon to be in-person
Exactly.
face-to-face.
Exactly.
But man, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's a beautiful
Good.
day
Glad
in
to hear that.
Jersey, so I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Also a beautiful day on the best coast over here. Uh, no, but hey, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Super excited to talk laundromats with you. But let's start with who are you and how'd you get into this weird business of laundromats?
I just love washing socks, so I figure this would be a good industry. So yes,
You heard it. Send all your dirty socks to Charles. He loves
exactly,
washing them.
exactly. Send it over. So yeah, no. So I guess I dabbled in it. Let's say like around 2011, 2012. There was a really rundown, junky laundromat, and at the time, I think I was like maybe like 21. I think I was, and it was kind of around from where we lived. And my mother always wanted a laundromat, so she called the building because there was a for sale sign. The guy said, "Oh no, I'm selling the building. not the laundromat. So then, like a few weeks later, he called back again and said, you know what? If you want the laundromat, like I'll just give it to you. Like you just pay me rent. Like we didn't even sign a lease. It was it was just like here, like you give me like I think it was like $1,200 a month, and you just run it. And you know what? It was a learning experience because everything was old. The place was filthy, and I think for an entire month, all I did was like clean. And we had the store for about maybe like 3 4 months, and then there was Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey,
Mm,
and it just completely wiped the whole store out. It was like 5 feet of water inside. Everything was done, and
jeez.
the machines were older. So basically, we would have to rebuild the entire thing, and just the revenue that it was doing, we were only netting maybe, like 1,500 at the end of the month. So it wasn't worth the investment of doing anything to it. So, we just parted ways nicely. And after that, it's like, I kind of like this laundromat thing. And at the time, I was basically a political consultant for campaigns over here in New Jersey. And I think, well, I can kind of do this on the side as I do all this basically consulting and kind of like marketing stuff for these candidates. And I looked around and I tried to buy something in Delaware like a few times. And I came like this close, but it just never ever worked out. And I ended up renting a place over in New Jersey to live in, and washer and dryer broke. So I went to what I found was the nicest laundromat nearby, and just started talking to the owner there, who was an older gentleman. And he basically said, "No, listen, I'm not interested in selling it, but you're a nice guy, so if you want to have like lunch every once in a while, I'll kind of teach you the industry and tell you what I know." So I said, "All right, sure, that sounds good." And after maybe 4 months, one day he just goes, "Hey, do you wanna buy this place?" And I said, "Absolutely." And then the struggle of getting finances when you have no credit history, really, no business history, and very little capital to to put down on it. And long story short is I kept trying different places. I tried Eastern at the time. I tried all the different banks, and basically I either didn't have enough capital or just didn't have enough industry knowledge to get approved. And I was getting ready to call him like the next day and tell him, "Hey, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity, but I can't do it because I can't get the funding that I need to buy the place from you." And I'm a Christian, and I have a little devotional that I kind of read every night. And it's the scripture was something like, "His compassions fail not; they are new every morning." And so I'm getting ready to call the owner of this store, and the guy goes out of nowhere, says, "You know what? I'm just going to owner finance the entire thing for you." Um, and then that's basically how I got into my first real store. Yeah.
Jeez.
So
That's that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and what's funny about that is that, I know there are people listening to this right now who are like, "Man, he got super lucky." And you did, like you did, but you only get lucky when you get out and do things and meet people and invest in relationships and network and do the hustle. Like it didn't just get handed to you. You had to reach out to the guy. You had to meet with, or not had, you got to meet with the guy, for lunches, and you had to go through the process of trying to get all that financing and getting rejected a whole bunch of times.
yeah,
And then you got lucky. And that's what happens when you take the action. So that's a really awesome story. How did that work out for you?
So, so prior to getting in, like before all the Facebook groups and everything, there was the Coin Laundry Association's forum, and I read it all the time. Planet Laundry, I read it all the time. Um, Here I am. I'm going to business, just graduating business school. Graduated that same year, and I'm thinking, all right, I know everything. This is going to be like a walk in the park here. Um, and this was a full service store. It was a very busy self service store, very busy drop off store for wash and fold. Um, Also did outsourced dry cleaning that people dropped off. So this is a busy store. And maybe after like 7 months in, like it's a little seasonal by us. So the seasonal dip happened. This is my first year in. My cash flow is really not that not enough to pay what I got to pay. Um,
Mhm.
so I had some money that I set aside, and I was using that to get by for a few months. And I'm thinking like, how am I going to do this? And like the main struggle that I had, and again, this is like something you just don't know till you're in it. Um, my lease was probably like this thick, and it was a really great lease if you were a landlord, but if you were a tenant,
Mhm.
it was like it was horrible. It was way too much per square foot. um, Constant yearly increases, a large cam. And the cam, if you don't know, that's like all the other stuff, like the taxes, the insurance, the paving of the parking lot if there's a problem, plowing, grass, all that stuff. Um, so this lease was like crushing me. That's where most of you know my money was going. Um, when I ended up leaving that store, I was paying over $14,000 a month in rent, which is like a
Ooh.
stupid number. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking like, how am I gonna do this? And you know, I went to school basically for communication and marketing. Now I was doing that for basically people who are running for office, and I said I got to do this for to get people in my store.
Mhm.
So
For
I
me,
started,
do it for me now.
you know, all right. Well, what's the basic? The easiest. All right, people self service side, right? So I started promoting self service. I did mailers. I did door hangers. And maybe it went up that much. Nothing really happened. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So then later on in that year, made a Facebook page for the store, and started doing things online. And instead of pushing the self service, I started pushing the drop off wash and fold service. And doing that consistently, I had a lot of growth in that business. And that just really started growing. And now I was able to take sigh of relief because I wasn't on a financial cliff anymore, and focus on taking that business to the next level. And that was kind of my focus, was growing that wash and fold end, because that's where I found the easiest um, growth to get new customers in.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, the man, I just heard a quote that's like so pertinent here. It was something like all growth comes out of desire or
Yeah,
desperation, right? You hit that desperation
exactly.
point and you're like, I've got $14,000 worth of lease expenses every year, let alone everything else. Like like I've got to figure this out, right? And it causes you to try different things and innovate, which is great because when I got to that point personally in my first laundromat and it was a horrible situation, I just turtled up. I got scared, right? So good on you for taking the action. That's where, if I could go back and do my thing all over again, that'd be a huge part of what I would do different is I'd attack it a little more aggressively like you did. So kudos.
Like,
What kinds of things did you see working to help you grow that side of the business?
it's like, wash and fold is a different animal than like the self service. Like, I think one reason, the self service wasn't growing that effectively was because if you have a really good store, generally speaking, you're going to be the dominant player in the market and you're going to have most of the market share. So, besides new movers coming in, um, you're not going to grow that that much. You really just want to keep the status quo, really. But with drop off in a laundromat for wash and fold, a lot of people don't know that this service even exists. So it
Mhm.
was just making people aware of it, brand awareness, and doing a bunch of different things on Facebook, and then in the store, you know just having that consistent quality and trying to keep a consistent product and doing that that consistency kept people coming back in, and then we talked to our customers, we got them to leave like really good reviews, then we'd give them like a credit on their account if they did so, and just building that reputation in the community with it.
Yeah, that's huge. What can you? I mean, you may not even remember, but do you have any idea of like what that timeline was like in
Yeah.
terms of getting back up to feeling like you're not at the edge of the cliff anymore?
Yeah, so I got in like March of 14. So by like December of 14, I was totally freaking out. So basically from let's say let's say like that March, after I tried stuff like self-service, and like that summer of I actually went to the Clean Show, and it was in April, and it was in Atlanta. It was my first ever Clean Show. It was like last minute that I went, and after going there and just hearing all these different presentations, and seeing everything and talking to people and all that, that kind of gave me that extra like boost of what I had to do, and all that. And it was funny, like at that show, like I was thinking of like picking pickup and delivery, and like we kind of did it if we felt like it. Is the best way to describe it. But at that show, um, Rick Rome from Wash Club had like his I think it was the first time he had a booth there, and I thought, oh wow, this pickup and delivery thing's great, and like I wanted to go like talk to this guy, but I couldn't because the line was like ridiculous. It was the longest line. I tried like 3, 4 times to go, couldn't do it. But this got in my head of like, all right, this pickup and delivery thing, like if I'm having all this success with people dropping it off at the store, I mean, what could I do with like pickup and delivery? Um, so basically, my manager, like I said, we kind of did it if we felt like it. So my manager was our driver, and we basically said like, all right, this is a permanent thing now. Like we're gonna pick up, Monday, through Friday here, and we deliver it in like 2 days. People call in, we print out a little thing in our point of sale, and we had like a whiteboard, and we stuck their name on the whiteboard, and basically kind of just made it a permanent thing. But we were still focusing on like people coming into the store, and kind of like when that kind of maxes out, because there's only going to be like so many people who want to bring their laundry to you, then we started pushing that pickup and delivery in, and that kind of started our journey into the pickup and delivery business. And that's really, if I didn't have like that horrible rent, I would have never went into pickup and delivery. And like now, we're doing like 1,300 pickups a month, and compared to the maybe the five or so that we were doing a week in the beginning. So it really took off over time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I love that. And there's a, anybody listening, there's a couple really awesome episodes with Rick Rome earlier on in the podcast. That guy just kills it. He's got a good thing going too. Um, yeah, and real quick, I just one point I want to pull out of your story here is that I see and I talk to so many people who are scared to get started. And I get it. Like if I knew the journey I was about to head into when I bought my first laundromat, probably you too. If you knew that feeling you're gonna feel in that December of
Yeah. So,
2014 and beyond, you may not have pulled the trigger, right? So I get that fear. However, one thing I just want to point out is that it was actually when things went wrong that caused you to pivot and make the changes that ultimately built you a really great business and derivative businesses, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. All because of the difficulties, the hard times, and same's true with me. Where I kind of half joke, but I'm not really sure that I'm joking. That I was like the world's worst laundromat owner there for a while, and but even so, now I get to be here because of that. I get to be here talking to legends like you and all the other people I've had on the podcast and who will come on the podcast and all the other people I've connected with. And it, I get being afraid of when things go wrong or, the unknowns and all that stuff, but there's some there's some beauty in when things go wrong and you have to struggle and you have to use your head to figure out how to work your way out of situations and beautiful things come out of it sometimes, which
yeah,
is pretty cool. So if you're there and you're feeling that fear, to get started, whether it's buying a laundromat or a real estate investment or whatever it might be for you, listen, maybe just take the edge off it a little bit and just say, hey, when, not if, when I encounter some difficulties, because you will, there's difficulties any direction you go in life. When you do that, just look for look for the opportunities in those situations because there's always opportunities in those situations. And
yeah. No, no,
I
there
think
is,
you're a
and it's
great
like
example of that. Yeah.
there's you look at whether it's me, the Willifords, Dave Menz, any of us, right? You look at us and say, "Oh wow, look how successful it is! Look how easy it is for them!" Right? The problems that we have on a daily basis are they're problems, they're real problems. We have real issues that we face, and it's not like, oh, the grass is so much greener here. It's just our problems are you know a different kind of problem. You have multiple stores now, you're maintaining more equipment, you have different systems you're maintaining. And like just last week, so we do regular maintenance on our HVAC units, but the heating units at both stores broke down within a week of each other, and it's December here, so it's a little cold. We need heat. You know, Problem had to fix, and it was one after the other. Then hot water heater stopped working. This is the same week. Then a transmission on a pickup and delivery truck. You want to do this many pickup and delivery orders, you have trucks and they break down. The transmission blew up on this truck. Luckily, it was under warranty. But this is all within 1 week. So yeah, we're doing good, but there's always problems, and it's like you learn from the problems, and you can't be afraid of it because like listen, there's plenty of times where I wanted to like throw in the towel and say I'm done with this. I can't do it. But God gives you enough grace and strength each day to get through whatever comes your way, and you can't, close yourself off and go have a pity party. You gotta pick yourself up and figure out the best way to to make this situation work. And out of that, you can have something good come out of it, like your story, my story, and a lot of other people's stories.
Yeah. And as you encounter problems, your capacity to handle those problems grows over time. So if you take somebody who's brand new and you throw them in a high capacity laundromat, you know, or laundromats where, HVACs are going to go down and a hot water heater's going down and a transmission's going down, and that sounds super overwhelming. Well, guess what? It probably will be overwhelming for you if you haven't grown your capacity. And you do that by getting in the game and solving the problems in front of you one at a time. And as you do that, your capacity grows, right? If you're going to have 30 laundromats all of a sudden all at once, guess what? That's going to be pretty overwhelming. But if you've grown that portfolio over time and you've dealt with the problems, your capacity to deal with problems as they come up grows also. So it's just as much about growing, if not more, about growing us as people, as owners, as entrepreneurs, as it is about growing the business, because the business can only grow to the capacity that we grow. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and like to that point, like again, back then, the only thing there really was like the coin laundry forum, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like every morning, I would have my coffee, my little breakfast, and I would go through and see, what people were saying, what they were arguing about, all that. And yeah, you just learn from there. And then, now, hey, look, there's your show, there's other shows, there's all the different Facebook groups. The availability of knowledge is is so much more than even when I started not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So take advantage of those resources, but at the same time, you got to make that first step. Like one thing that like Luke Williford always says, like the biggest distance is between like knowing and doing it. Right? You can know and talk about, oh, I'm going to go talk to this owner here or do this or whatever it is, but until you do it, doesn't matter. And like even like myself, like I'm kind of a perfectionist, right? So I want things to be perfect, right? And you can't let like uh, good become the enemy of perfect, right? Like if it's good, like just start. It doesn't have to be perfect to start. Just start with what you know, what you have, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that whole biggest gap in the world is between knowing and doing, that's one that stuck with me since Luke first told me about it on, I think, show 10 of the podcast. And it's stuck with me ever since. So that's an awesome one. Okay, so let's go back to you taking over this store. You said it was doing pretty good business
Yep. Yep.
already. Um, when you took over. So how was that process of actually taking over a high capacity store with really very little experience behind you?
So like I said, I thought I knew everything, and I think what I kind of remember so we had a manager, and he kind of basically ran the daily operations and stuff like that. And Sundays was his day off, so I would have to go in and kind of do the things that needed to be done. Basically, you know, we had a busy front counter with wash and fold, dry cleaning, and selling products over it, right? So we had a cash register. So every day we would count out the cash register and reset it. And I just remember the first time me having to do this. I don't know, for whatever reason, I was like petrified. I was sitting there trying to like, am I doing this right? Oh my gosh, a customer is coming now. They're dropping something off, and I just remember being so just overwhelmed. I don't know why that moment sticks out in my head, but there's a lot going on. There's different levels of the business, which is also nice, right? There's, let's say, you're unattended laundromat 24 hours. You just have like a cleaning person, or you come in and you clean it. Um, then you have like maybe your store is just, attended, and you're not doing any wash and fold. And next level up is, all right, we're fully attended, we're doing drop off laundry. And then let's say the top level of involvement is adding pickup and delivery to it. And, the pickup and delivery business, is really a totally different business. Um, Even if you're doing a full drop off service at your store, pickup and delivery is really a different animal. And I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm just going to add this on one, two, three. I just buy a van, right, and drive around. How hard is it? Um, and if you don't set yourself up right, you're going to be torturing yourself and basically burning a lot of money if you don't have a plan on how to do that and run that business. Because in the beginning, you're kind of using, let's say, free labor, meaning, you know, your staff can process X number of pounds an hour. And until you hit that capacity, you basically have free labor. So in the beginning, it's really profitable. And you think, oh, wow, this is great. This is great. I just keep getting more customers. Well, then wait a minute. Now you need to hire another folder. Now, you know, maybe you need another delivery driver and another truck, So getting this balance is is tricky. It's not the same as having a successful full service store. It really is a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that can be, like I said, that can be really overwhelming when you're first kind of getting in there, and you were definitely feeling, that heat. So between, I think you said December when you were starting to panic,
Yeah.
and April when you hit the clean show and you got kind of reinvigorated and some new, inspiration, what, what was going through your head then, like those months, December to April? And, were you trying to formulate a plan? I mean, I know you were trying to grow the self serve for a little bit, and in kind of that plan, but like, what was going through your head during that time?
I was always looking on like how we could do something better. Like no matter what it was, I was always thinking, all right, what could we do better and what could we do different than like the other people around us. um, you know I had 100G machines, and I'm thinking, all right, I know obviously 200G is better, but I don't have that, I can't afford that. Like, what do I do? And just from talking to people, things like that, you increase the spin out time at the end. This way, you're taking out a little bit more water and getting a benefit, not the full benefit of what a 200G machine would be, but your customers are going to dry a little faster because you're getting more water out. So I would play with the cycle, increase that spin time, maybe cut a minute off of a bath here and there so the washer wasn't any longer. And look at everything through the customer's point of view, right? Because we're there for the customer. So look at everything from their point of view, from the point of view of them leaving their home, driving to your store, pulling into your parking lot. Can they park? That's if they can't park, then the cycle ends, right? That's it just stops. If they can park, now they're coming in, right? Do you have enough washers? Can they get the clothes washed and then over into a dryer, have a dryer? And then what I find that people kind of miss out is carts. They forget about having enough carts, and they forget about having enough folding tables because, all right, you have a busy store, you need places for people to fold. Sometimes I see people put up designs of like a store that they want to build, and they have all these machines in there, but where are they going to fold the clothes? Like, it's great to have washers and dryers, but if they don't have a place to fold it, they're not going to come back to your store. So you have to look at everything through the customer's point of view. And that's kind of like what I did. I'm like, all right, how can I make it better from my customer's point of view, and just focus on that kind of that customer service and giving them that quality that they need, whether it's self service or drop off or pickup and delivery, um, and just growing the business. How can I get more customers in here? Because, you can advertise, but if you don't have a good environment for your customers to come into, then your advertising is basically a lie, and you're wasting money because that person's not going to come back. You want them to come back and use you over and over again.
Yeah, and that focus on customer service, that is something that we just hear over and over and over from the top laundromat owners. And it's something that honestly, I think was not really part of the discussion not that long ago. The game plan for the majority laundromat owners for a long time was let's let the customer do their thing. Essentially, they're renting out our machines and they're doing the laundry, which is true. I mean, that's still the self-serve model today. However, kind of putting yourself in your customer's shoes and trying to make that experience as seamless and smooth and quick as possible while still getting a high quality result. I mean, just all the things you just said are that's the way forward here for
Yeah.
this industry. And gone are the days, I think, in especially in the bigger markets, gone are the days of just kind of opening a store and letting it do its thing. It's just you're gonna lose out to the owners that are coming in that are trying to take care of their customers now, like you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like there's a a competitor by me, and you know there's no soap in the bathroom. There's just like, why? Like, why don't, like, I know that's like a small, like, it seems small, but think of it, like, there's no soap in the bathroom. You think the customer who's cleaning their clothes wants wants that? No, they're gonna say this is gross. And it's like, it's always like a lot of small things go into like making or breaking a customer relationship. Like, very rarely is there like a major thing that, like, stops customers from coming. Normally, it's like just 1,000 small paper cuts, right? And they stop. I mean, you gotta have, like, just look at everything from that customer's point of view, and you know try to make it as easy and convenient for them as you can. Um, what I kind of tell my team is, we sell convenience. Like, we don't sell laundry, we don't sell soap. We're selling convenience because either they live in an apartment and they don't have a washer and dryer, so they come to us, or maybe they're a busy mom and they don't have time to do the laundry at home, so they drop it off, or they're a young professional, living, whatever in their building, and we go pick up their laundry and deliver it. We're selling convenience. Laundry is just like the vehicle of that convenience, but we're in the convenience business.
Yeah, and you're right. Like you're dead on. The devil is in the details. Actually, I learned this early on owning a laundromat. I came in, honestly, like I came in with that mentality of like, I'm gonna put new machines in the store and it's gonna, just pave my way to wealth and success, on its own. And because that's what I was told. That's the message I was sold getting into this thing, and found out pretty quickly that was not going to be the case. I was going to have to, pay a little more attention to this thing, and it turned out I had to pay a lot more attention to it. But the details are what's matter. The soap in the bathroom, the paper towels in the bathroom, the toilet paper in the bathroom, the but even, just clean corners, right? Like the inside corners of your store, keeping them clean, keeping your machines just clean in general. But it's those little details. It's the mildew that builds up under the seal of the washers if you don't clean them out, which is a huge pain in my opinion. But again, the devil's in the details because when people see, you know, allergy or whatever, mildew or whatever it is in there, and they're like, "Well, I'm putting my clothes in there to clean them." What's the deal here, right? So it's all the little details that add up. You're right, that make up the experience, and it should be standard as the machines just work and the place is clean, right? Like that's not standard, but that should be bare minimum standard. And then on top of that, all those little details, the coin changer is always full. The machines get fixed quickly, soap in the bathroom, all of the little details is what can take you a notch above, which I love. Because we don't talk about it's hard to talk about the details. It's really easy to talk about the general stuff, but it's those details that really do add up. And thinking through the customer experience is a great way to figure out those details. I think that's money. All right, so you start. Can I ask you a couple
Yeah.
details about your pickup and delivery business? There's great operators that run their pickup and delivery businesses differently, and so I'm just kind of curious on your, maybe it's not even how you're currently operating it, but on your ideas on pickup and delivery. I'm always just kind of curious what people think. One of the controversial ones, which I love to just hear different people's take on it, is pricing by the bag versus by the pound. Do you have a preference?
So, yeah. So, I mean, I just do it by the pound. I mean, that's kind of like how we've done it. And I would say, for my market, so we're in New Jersey, right? But we're in the shadow of New York City, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of people in New York who are familiar with having laundry done at a laundry mat, and they're familiar with that price per pound model. So, kind of just because of the familiarity in my market with the per pound and the my staff being used to processing it in that way, um, I stay with per pound. I did think about changing last year about to a per bag model. I think the benefit is if you're starting from scratch, I think the benefit is if you price it properly, um, it is easier for the customer to understand the cost of what it takes to do their laundry. Because when you do by the pound, that is, let's say, the biggest negative is the customer doesn't know, especially a first time customer, how much does this
Mm-hmm.
laundry, cost. Um, so if you're starting out from scratch, I would, I would look at the per bag model because I think it has a benefit of price transparency to the customer, and it helps with that sign up process because when we go buy something, we kind of always know what the price is, but when we have our laundry done, unless I'm bringing it into the store and dropping it off, I don't know. you know so for me, I like per pound just because that's the model that we've used, and I think people are familiar with it here. But if you're starting from scratch, I would definitely consider looking at the per bag.
Yeah, I think that's great. A great assessment of kind of the pros and cons of both, because there's pros and cons of both, and there's some heavy hitter
Yeah,
proponents of both. So there's no right or wrong on this. And it might. I think that your market does play into that, and if there's familiarity with one or the other, uh, it actually could be a reason to stay with what they're familiar with, or it also could be a differentiator, right? So there's different
exactly,
ways
exactly.
to do it. Yeah. And then just out of curiosity, again, not a right or wrong way to do this, but do you do by your pickup and delivery on a route basis, or how do you do your routing for your pickup
Yeah,
and delivery?
yeah. So we do everything on a route. So we have different routes, and we'll go to those routes, different days of the week. And basically, every time that we pick up, we deliver it the very next day. And as these routes grow, you can add different service days. So our busiest route, we service Monday through Friday. Most of our other routes, we're picking up 2 times a week, and we're delivering the very next day after we pick up. So as you get more dense, um, I think your best bet is to then go to 5 days a week of service. And hey, if you're really busy and you want to do it on Saturday, you can. Um, I personally choose not to do it on Saturday, just because it you need a break. Every once in a while, you need a break. But servicing 5 days a week, you're getting the majority of your customers, and you know, as you grow, you add those days to those territories, because what you want to prevent is driving all over the place like this. Because when you do what's called like on demand, you could be in one neighborhood, go, half an hour away, and then go back again to that same neighborhood. Now that doesn't make much sense. Where the, let's say, the logistics end becomes more efficient is when you have more concentration of customers. So if you have a bunch of customers in an area, that driver is going to be able to do that route almost faster than a driver who has, let's say, fewer customers, but they're not concentrated. They're thrown kind of all over, and you become more profitable at that at a higher concentration of customers in an area. So that's why I like doing it by route and not on demand.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to the route based. It's easier to do on demand when you're getting started and you don't have that
Exactly, exactly.
density there. So, are you, for your pickup and delivery, do you have any idea like what's your breakdown of residential versus commercial? Do you focus on one or the other? Do you do
Yeah, I
both?
mean, so we do both. We're mainly residential for the most part. That's the majority of our business. Um, we do smaller commercial accounts. Maybe they're like 20-25% of our business. Um, but our focus is really on residential. Um, the smaller commercial accounts we like, um, just because if you have a very large commercial account, which is great. Don't We've had them in the past, and when there's a problem, and let's say that account now goes for whatever reason, um, now all of a sudden it's a pretty big change in your cash flow. Like during COVID, um, we did laundry for the state police, um, which was great. But after kind of COVID wound down, you know, this account went away, and it was great while it lasted. We'll gladly do it again. Um, but you want to have that steady, reliable revenue, and I think like those smaller, spas, acupuncture, massage places, um, those are the better accounts. I think to have in the long run.
Yeah. Is there a reason why you focus on residential versus commercial other than maybe the sort of the uh
Yeah. So I
steadiness
mean, I
there?
think there's more opportunity, for residential. There's a lot more homes than there are businesses that have a laundry need. Um, and you know, because now there's a much larger audience to go after, um, it's easier to acquire those customers. And acquiring a residential customer is a whole lot easier and more cost effective than acquiring a commercial customer. Um, Normally, commercial customers, you're paying a personal visit to, you're dropping off a flyer at their business, you're talking to them. And also, commercial customers are generally a little more price sensitive. They want to have a lower price to do the laundry versus a residential. This is the advertised price. We'll come to your house. We'll do it. Sign up online, easy sign up process. Um, and then we try to make those residential customers weekly customers. So they use us week after week. And part of that is, quality service. And we do offer a slight discount to those customers who become like a repeat or weekly customer.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, do you, and again, I'm just curious on your thoughts. I don't think there's a universal answer on this. For somebody maybe who's starting out pickup and delivery, would you recommend starting with residential versus commercial?
Yeah, so I would say like if you could get, some commercial accounts easy, then fine, by all means, you know, do so. But generally, um, advertising for and acquiring residential is the easier way to do it. Um, the online channels are super great. And then depending in your market, we have something called like garden apartments, right? These are like two-story apartment buildings. Normally the washers and dryers are in the basements of these. And there's kind of like an entrance to each apartment. So these communities work really great for us. So hey, you have flyers made up, little QR code with like maybe $10 off your first order, for example. Um, you'll leave this by the door. You know, that's one grassroots way of doing it. But really, you have two methods. It is inbound, which is people searching on Google. So you want your Google ads there for people to get found and sign up that way. And then awareness. Like I said, a lot of people just don't know they can have someone come to their house, pick up their laundry, and then deliver it back to them. That is like something they've never heard of. So making the customer aware of your service. Those are kind of like your three main channels of getting residential customers.
Love it. That's awesome. Uh, this is totally unrelated to what
Yeah,
we're talking
yeah,
about, but I was thinking about this with your lease, going back to your
yeah,
lease real
yeah.
quick and it being bad. I wonder if we could just have a quick conversation on what should people be looking for in a good lease versus a bad lease, or how do you know if it's a good lease or a bad
Yeah.
lease? Do you have any tips on that or any frameworks that you use when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
looking at leases?
So, I mean, I would say first, every market's, different. So look in your area. Go on like LoopNet and see, like, okay, on the highway that the store is located on, what are the going rates for for rent? You want to find something that's about the same size as, what the laundromat is and get an idea of, all right, these are the going rates that are there now. Well, the difference between, us as laundromat owners and, a hair salon is we're going to be there for, 15, 20 years. So because of that, we have to look real close at um, the yearly increases. You know, how is that structured? You know, generally, if you're doing a new lease, you don't want any increases for your first few years. You want to pause those. And then once those increases start, you want them as small and as few between. Um, you know, because it could be a great price right now for that space, but if you have a 5% yearly increase, you're not going to be able to afford that store in 10 years. So, you know, I would say 3% is like the max of a yearly increase you want, and that's it has to be a really good spot. I would try to do like 1.5% increase every year, or every other year, um, and you want to give yourself you know options as well. You have your initial term, and now you're going to have maybe 2 5-year options. Um, and then assignability. Assignability is important. If you can't assign, meaning you want to go sell your laundromat now, if you cannot easily assign it to someone, forget it. Your store is not worth anything. I have a friend of mine who's selling their store, and basically the landlord said, "Yeah, I'll assign the lease, but you know what? I want some key money." You know, what are you going to do? If it's not written down in the lease, he can, kind of say and do what the landlord wants. Um, there was a deal that I was looking at, and this kind of goes from different. After you're already in, whatever changes you make to your lease, you have to make sure like it's properly documented. You have a proper amendment. It's signed clearly. Everything's clear and together. I was trying to acquire another location this past summer, and there was an original lease, and then there was a bunch of handmade amendments of changes to like the lease schedule and the price of the rent and all this and that. So it had to be cleaned up. So basically, we get everything lined up close, and then the deal blows up, just before the end because again, the landlord didn't want to assign the lease. You have to have clear, how does this lease get assigned to a potential buyer? And it has to be spelled out clearly. Because if you cannot exit that lease and sell your store, then it's worth nothing. And there's a lot of, there's good landlords, but there's also a lot of really bad ones who they'll just take your equipment, take that space, and they'll try to sell it to somebody and get what's called key money for your space at the end of the day. And you don't want any part of that.
Yeah, that lack of clarity in a lease is something I see all the time, especially if you're dealing with more of like a mom and pop uh, landlord
Yep.
type situation, or even a mom and pop uh, management company, where there's just a lack of clarity in lease, and a lot of times what I see too is when you try to get that lease cleaned up after the fact,
It's hard.
a lot of time the landlord isn't savvy enough to know, you know, what's happening, and so they get very defensive, or they just shut down all negotiations because you know that's not the way they've done things. They've done things more on the handwritten amendments and addendums, right? And one of the things about the lease, and is the lease is so important. And you mentioned a couple different times, like if you don't have this lease button down, it's not assignable, or there's these huge escalators, or one sort of guiding framework is I that I use with my consulting clients, or in some of the courses and stuff, is like your your lease should be you should be targeting 25% of your gross
Yep.
income or less. And not to say it's a deal breaker if it's above that, but if you get too far above that, you're just not going to be profitable, or you're going to have to get innovative and add a whole new wing to your business in order to compensate for it, right? But there's so many potential gotchas in a lease, especially for a laundromat. And you referenced a couple times you need a long term lease. And also another thing that I see a lot is that the lease is assignable, but the options are not. So you
Yes.
also need to make sure
Yes.
the options
Yes.
are assignable. Because if not, then you think you have, you know, 7 years left on the lease and two 5-year options, which sounds like 17 years, but really you have a 7-year lease because those options aren't assignable, right? So, and again, you lose a ton of value, you lose a ton of uh, leverage with that landlord. That landlord has a lot of leverage over you, and there's really nothing you can do about it at that point, right? So, I would recommend have 3 people read every lease before you sign it. Number one has got to be you. You should read through that lease and understand to the best of your ability what exactly you're signing. This is a marriage you're entering, so you should understand what you're signing. I would have a lawyer look over that lease, looking for legal gotchas, and I would have somebody who understands the laundromat business read that lease over with you and for you, that can look for the laundromat specific gotchas that can pop up there. And you got in a situation where you had I would say probably an unreasonable rent, especially if you're doling out 14K a month in all expenses associated with that lease. And it just makes it so hard to run a business that way, for sure. So I appreciate you giving those tips. Those are money tips. So you have mentioned that there may be other laundromats that you own. Is that true? Is that
Yeah, so right now we have two stores, and
Okay.
the market is pretty tight over
Yeah.
in Jersey, and like the evaluations have gotten like stupid. Um,
Mhm.
so I'll look to where I can bring value, um, and that's what I'm looking for. If I don't feel I can bring something to that deal, then I'm really not excited about it. Hey, if I'm going to pay, five times for this store, you know, and I can't change anything, then I'm really not that excited you know, to buy it. I'm looking more around like that 3 to 4 range. And you know what? It doesn't even matter to me if I have to renovate the place completely because number one, I'm probably going to want to make it the way that I want it to be because it's probably old, outdated. Maybe the layout's bad. And, that's what I'm looking for. If I can't bring something to improve it beyond what it's doing now, then I'm kind of not really into it. So, kind of what we're doing now, like so we moved. So that lease was so horrible. We attempted to renegotiate. Um, it, it didn't work out. So I ended up relocating the store. Like right down the street. So the building that we're in now, half of it we basically kind of just use for storage, and the other half is our actual store. So that storage half, we're going to be opening up and connecting the two sides together, and we're going to start the process of making that basically a production and storage area for our wash and fold and delivery business because like I said, I look at everything through the customer's point of view. And when you walk in to my store early in the morning, there's just bundles of laundry all over. It's not good for our self-service customers, and it just is. It needs to be organized. So we're going to basically build out this other half of our store and make this into basically a production facility for delivery. So have everything based out of there, our wash and fold orders stored over there, and you know, use that to basically improve both our self service and then make our delivery operation run smoother too. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're kind of excited about that, and I think it's going to make things a whole lot easier for us in the long run. And it takes a lot to get it to that point. You know, if you don't have to have like a separate spot or anything like that, you keep running it out of your laundry as long as you can. I mean, that's kind of basically what we did, and we're doing like 1,300 pickups a month now, and it's gotten to the point where all right, we don't want it to interfere with our self service stuff. So now we're going to kind of make this investment so we can continue to grow. Because if you don't have that space to grow, you're going to limit your ability kind of to grow, because your operation is not going to function well. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose customers because of that, whether it's a delivery customer or your in store customer. And, that's kind of, what we're working on doing.
Okay. Well, listen, you kind of glossed over this major event
Okay.
here. So I mean, this is something that I say it almost never makes sense to move your laundromat.
Yeah.
Like almost never. I would say if you're paying 14K in rent, depending, I guess, on the situation and your square footage and all that, that might be a situation where it makes sense. But can you talk about just a little bit, like
Yeah.
what were negotiations like with that original landlord, and how did you decide? I mean, it is not easy and it is not cheap to move a laundromat. So can you talk a little bit about the negotiations there, and then how you decided to actually move
Yeah.
the
So,
laundromat?
I had this kind of all in my head because I knew basically, all right, my term was coming up, and then I had options I would have to execute. Um, and I kind of planned for worst case, like, all right, if this doesn't work, when would I have to start looking for another location, start building that, and start this whole process. Um, so laid all that out, planned it out, um, and you know, it takes time to find a good spot. It takes time to design that location. It takes time to build it if it all goes smooth. Um, so, I mean, I have a construction background. My father is an architect, so I know about construction. I know about design, dealing with permits and towns and all that stuff. So lay it all out, and so I laid it all out, and then after I laid it out, I then made a separate, let's say, schedule of all right. I'm going to start negotiating on, um, for a different lease from my current landlord at the time, and if that works, then great. Then I'll stop, the other end. But if it doesn't, I got to do both, at the same time. Um, and I kind of presented my plan. I drove up to Eastwood Funding's office, went over to see Brian, and I kind of laid everything out. I said, "Listen, this is what my rent is now. This is what my current debt service is." Because remember, that old owner, he's basically was the bank. He was financing the whole thing. Um, Laid everything out, told him my idea, um, and he, after looking at it and looking at kind of the numbers, he said, this makes sense. He goes, I don't think I would ever say to move a laundromat or anything, but he said, do it. And then I had a really good distributor who thought I was totally insane and out of my mind for trying to move a successful store. And, they actually built that original store. They built it from the ground up, and they knew everything about it. And they were like, just stay. Even though it's a lot, you want to stay. You're still making money there, But so we tried to negotiate, and basically all I got back was, well, the price is going to stay the same, but we'll give you more time, which that didn't really help me. The price was totally
Yeah.
insane.
I'm sure they would give you more time.
Yeah. I presented, what other buildings were leasing for, in the area. And I was politely told, oh, well, these are not, comparable. I even tried the route of, all right, maybe I'll try purchasing the property. That they didn't want that. They wanted a crazy number because they were basing it off of what I was paying in rent, which is basically a fake number. Even though I was paying it to them all the time, it's an artificially high number. So we tried to make it work. Didn't work. Then right down the street, like literally 200 yards down the street, there was a building that I wanted to try to purchase. Someone just beat me to it. Luckily they did, because they remodeled the whole thing a whole lot better than I would be able to. And I started the process of working out that lease, getting in there, and getting that store built. And basically all this is going down in February of 2020. So,
oh no.
Yeah. So then a month later, despite being stressed out from, basically potentially having my business fall apart from moving it and dealing with landlords and thinking you're going to lose everything that way, now all of a sudden, a month later, everything shuts down. It was, very, very stressful. And at a time they closed down all the inspector offices from the city who would do the building inspections. We couldn't get building materials. And even despite all this, we were able to build this store and have it basically ready for opening within about 7 to 8 months. Despite all of that, we got equipment in. We got through. The thing that held us back the longest, oddly, was uh, the breakers for the electrical panels. That one thing we couldn't power. We couldn't power the machines. Getting those breakers was like I ended up getting them from like Louisiana, is where I ended up finding them from. But going through that was you know a real challenging and hard process. And we promoted that move to our customers heavily, even though it was right down the street. You know, this is in COVID, so we had to make sure everybody knew where we were going to. Uh, we did basically construction video updates, and again, all those construction videos, they weren't for laundromat guys like us. It was like, oh, I'm putting in this, 18-inch concrete pad because our washers, they spin super fast. So when you go to dry your clothes, you're going to be in and out in under an hour. Everything was explained as, hey, we're making this investment. We're doing this for you, the customer, because it's going to give you X or whatever the benefit was. And we kept relaying that message. We would put out these videos organically. And then after they were put out organically, we also did paid advertising for those videos as well. We had banners in our store letting everyone know. Um, we notified people, as much as humanly possible. And it was a successful transition. And where my store was. I worked. Even though the relationship was tense with my former landlord, we did leave. We left on good terms, and they ended up. It was her dream always to have a food court. She's from Korea, and in Korea they have like kind of like a mini food court. Not how we see a food court in a mall, but more of like, oh, I'm going into this building, and there's different chefs doing all these different little cuisines, and you can do a sampling from all these different chefs. So this was kind of her dream to build here. So she ended up using that space of where my laundromat was, and she made it into basically a food court restaurant. And she's happy doing that. I'm happy where I am, down the street. And that's kind of the story of moving a laundromat.
Jeez, that's that's so wild. I wonder. I mean, I wonder if she did as well as she did with you in there with this food court, and in terms of getting revenue and in terms and everything for her. Seems like a riskier endeavor to go
I
that
mean,
way
if
for
it
her.
was if it was me, I think I would just, all right, I'm going to renegotiate with my tenant and keep them here, even if I am going to maybe have to lower that rent to keep it. But like I said, God has a plan for everything, and me moving was a whole lot better. We got to rebuild the store exactly how we wanted it, and build everything from the customer's perspective. We got more parking, a better flow from the washer to the dryer, um, better plumbing. So we're called Fluff and Fold. So the original store had the drainage pipes were a little too small. So we got super, super, super busy. It would flood. So my father changed the name to Fluff and Flood instead of Fluff and Fold. so
Oh
now we
god.
have literally a 10-inch PVC drain pipe behind our washers. So there is nothing that is flooding anywhere.
Yeah.
It is the most ridiculous size of a drain pipe could ever see in the world. It basically acts like an enclosed trough that's self cleaning. Is why we kind of
Yeah.
designed it that way.
Yeah, you just connect the sewer right to the machines there,
Yeah.
pretty much at that size. Uh, okay, a couple
Yeah.
things. Number one, was there downtime between closing the one store and opening the other, or what was that transition like?
Yeah, no, we were, we were blessed, and it was, I was afraid that we were, and like I said, all right, I'm gonna have to close for maybe 2 months or something like that. Um, but basically, so our target was to be open by like the end of June at the new store. But again, with COVID and inspections and getting the materials that we need, it basically got delayed from the end of June to the kind of the end of August. So our current landlord that we had before let us stay open and just do month to month until we until we moved over,
Oh,
um,
that's nice.
which was fantastic. And then as soon as we got that CO, um, we put up a sign at the old location and moved everybody over and got set up, and yeah, yeah, it was exciting.
What was your in your negotiations with that landlord? What was your do you remember what your target rent was? What were you trying you were around
Yeah,
like
yeah.
14,000 all
So
in.
I was at 14 all in, and you know, I said to myself, all right, if I got at like 9,000 all in, I would I would stay. That was that was kind of my thought. I would stay. I would do a little cosmetic cleanup. I would probably change the card system, um, and go from there. But I wouldn't have had any dramatic change in really anything. Um, but like I said, moving gave us the opportunity to have access to that extra space that we now have, and that space allows you to grow. Whether it would be making the self service larger, or like I'm doing now is basically making it into a wash and fold facility. And it's kind of like a headquarters for future stores that we do get. We can distribute supplies and parts and stuff from this other side of the building. And like I said, if I was told 9,000, I would have stayed, but I wouldn't have had all the opportunities that that I did have.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's wild. Do you feel like that 9,000 was like market rent?
Um, that was pretty close. Like market rent was probably a little lower than that, from what I remember. Um, but I was willing to pay a little more just so I could, stay, and not have to go through the headache of, you know, designing, building, dealing with the town and the utility companies and all that. And when I was told like, "Oh, I'll just give you more time," I'm like, really? Like, I've always paid my rent on time. I take care of everything, you know, but God has a plan where He wants to put you. And even though it was stressful you know, to move it and build it, it worked out, better for us in the long run. And she, got to do her dream of building this food court. And, you know, kudos for her for, doing, doing that.
Yeah. Jeez. Did you move equipment over? Did you get all new equipment? How did
Yeah.
that transition
So
look?
originally, obviously this is an expensive project because you're
Yeah.
building a laundromat from the ground up, basically, right?
Right.
So my original plan was, all right, my washers are 100G. I'm just going to sell them, and I'm just going to take my dryers over with me, and get a new card system. And as we start doing it, it's just like my distributor, he kind of agreed with me, and then uh, Brian was like, listen, you're going to build this really nice store, you're going to have brand new washers, and then you're going to look over and you're going to see these dryers that are 15 years old that you moved over from your other store, and then you're going to change them in like 5 years anyway, and you're going to say to yourself, why did I do this? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm already going into debt up to my eyeballs. I might as well go over my head. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter anymore. Yeah.
So I did it, and I'm happy. I'm happy I did it. I would have, I think, after I did it, I would have looked at those dryers and said, "This was stupid. Why did I do this?"
Yeah.
So yeah, with everything, all equipment brand new, and Luke Williford, he came up with his team and helped, which was awesome. They're great guys, and it was funny because you know he saw like the size of the wash and fold operation, and it was a lot smaller then than it is now, and he's like, where you're going is a little bit smaller than where you are now. Like, are you sure all this is going to fit in here and all going to jive in? And I'm like, it's going to work. I'm going to make it work. One way or another, it's going to work. So,
Don't have a choice.
we got it. We got it all in. And, like I said, we're doing like 1,300 pickups a month now, which is a lot more than what we were doing back then. And, now we're at that point where, okay, we seriously do need to have more space. So it was a great experience. And listen, we did all LED lights in the ceiling, designed everything nice. The bathroom is like nicer than what I had at my home at the time. And I said that on video on Facebook to everybody, and had my family yell at me, "Why are you telling people that? Why are you saying, what's the truth?
Yeah.
The bathroom in my laundromat's nicer than the bathroom I have at home." I mean, so, again, we made everything for the customer as nice as we could.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. That's just like a great story. I'm sure it was like super stressful
Yes.
at the time, like most great stories, right? Not at the time. But yeah, it's just such a great story. And last thing on this topic, like numbers wise, did it all work out and make sense in the end?
Yeah.
Or
No.
would you do it again if you had to do it?
Yeah. No. It all worked out. I would definitely do it again. It was a lot of work, and it was stressful, especially with COVID just starting and everything else. But it 100%, I would do it again.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, dude, right in the thick of COVID too. Oh my gosh. Actually, it probably worked out that it wasn't just a little bit later, because that's right when we started having, maybe like 6 or 8 months into COVID, when we started having the real big supply chain issues. And I mean, they had already been there at the start of COVID, but they got real bad, and those lead times got real long for a little while there.
Oh yeah, no, it
So
was like,
you might have just eked in.
I don't want to say it was perfect timing, but basically, like, my contractor, all of his residential jobs shut down, so I was his only his only real project going
Yeah.
on. So that was another kind of benefit of COVID. My only problem was basically getting like electrical supplies. For whatever reason, that was the hard
Yeah.
part. Everything else, plumbing was fine. Just that electrical stuff was tricky for us.
Yeah. Maybe you should have stolen them from your other location, the breakers.
We looked at
Straight out of
it.
the
We did look at it.
Like, can't find them anywhere else, but I got them right here. So you said you have a second location?
Yes. Yep.
Let's talk just briefly on that one. Like, how did that one come about? How'd you find it?
Sure. So,
what did that deal look like?
So one of our distributors brought this to our attention, and basically it was a laundromat that was built, 30 years ago, and basically run into the ground. The previous tenant somehow sold it to the landlord, and the landlord basically tried to run it and quickly realized that this was a horrible mistake. So he closed it, tried to sell it for what he paid for it, No one wanted to touch it. And we basically got him at the right time where he said, here, listen, just sign the lease, place is yours. So we basically got it. We got it for free. Um, and we had a gut, gut the whole inside of the place. Everything we tried to save just fell apart. So everything from the supply lines, from the coming into that space, all brand new, and it's a very very strong self service store.
Are you doing any fluff and fold out of that or
Yeah,
no?
no, we do. It's just more it's from where it is. The demographics are better um, for that uh, self service side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it does about like around 8 turns a day. So it's really
It's,
busy, and
it's, it's
the
money.
drop off. We do have we have a steady business there, but it's not like our other location.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's awesome. I mean, that's the mythical free laundromat that having to put a whole bunch of investment into after the fact. But awesome. How far away is that one from your first one?
So they're close. So they're about 2.5 miles apart.
Oh,
So we do
nice.
have some like back and forth between the customers. So like they are right now on two different card systems. So what we're looking to do is basically make that one card system, so then it's easier for the customers to go in between location, um, and have a better customer experience.
Yeah. That's all. Are they both branded the Fluff and Fold?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Nice. I like that. I wanted to hit somewhere along the way with all your marketing and stuff. You started a marketing company, started helping other laundromat owners market their businesses. Can you talk about that? Like, when did that develop? How did it develop?
Sure, sure, yeah. So, like, my background before laundries was basically communications, marketing, and like political stuff, right? I was basically in charge of basically marketing candidates to get people to vote for them. And because of that, I really like marketing. I love doing it. So I did all the marketing for our stores and for our delivery service. And as you grow, like I just didn't have the time needed to do everything, right? Things were slacking. Um, and the website, I did the website like when I first kind of took over the store, and it was just like a WordPress site that I made myself. It was better than what we had, but it was horrible, right? So I met these two guys called Dom and Rocco, and basically said, "All right, here's my website. Can you redo it for me?" And they did a really really good job with it. And they have this large advertising agency called CMG, Colossus Media Group. Um, so they did my website really good, and I hated doing Google ads. I hated it. So as after a few months, I said, "Hey, you guys want to, do this for me?" And they did it a whole lot better than I did. And Facebook was kind of like my thing. Like I didn't want to let it go, but like I said, as you got busy, like all right, I can't start doing everything that needs to be done to properly manage, Facebook and Instagram. So I reluctantly gave it over. And one thing that they do really good is content creation, right? So they have a full video team, photo team, right? So, you know, like I said, when we were moving my store, we came in and did all these videos, all these photos, explaining everything to our customers. And that content, that real content, is what really drives people, you know, on social, and let your customers engage with you and all that. So as time was going on, a part of a happiness, and the advertising there was garbage. It was like absolutely the worst advertising ever. And out of desperation, I just said, here, you guys, just like go, talk to them, see if you can turn this thing around. And all of a sudden, I started getting more pickup and delivery customers, um, and it's basically that optimization of the customer data, and using that data to build your campaigns, whether it's in the Google universe, in the Facebook universe. And what they ended up doing was lowering the cost of acquiring a customer. What was being spent was outrageous to acquire a customer. It wasn't sustainable, right? And from the knowledge of the data, you know, brought down that cost, brought it down by like 150%, from what it was. And after this, we were just talking and thinking like, what? Like, there's like only like one or two other people that do advertising in the laundry world. And, I think we can do it better, if we get together and put together our knowledge. And that's what we ended up doing. So we created a company called Suds Digital, and we have packages, and all these packages are basically different levels or different tactics, that work, when they're put together. And they were basically experimented on me. So all the trial and error, has been worked out. So the most basic thing is like your website. You have to have a really, really good website, because if you spend any money online and you're directing people to a website, it doesn't just need to look good. It needs to function good. As a laundromat, we need to bring people physically into our stores in order to make money. And, we need to drive people to get directions, to call us, to contact us. If they're not coming to our store, doesn't matter. So that's number one. After you have that really, really nice site that drives actual customers to your store, now you can spend money on advertising. And the first and basic thing is Google Ads. Because think of it this way: our main customer base for laundromats is renters. And if you don't know this, 30% of renters move every year. So 30% of our core customer base is changing for the self-service side and even the drop-off side. And if you just want to stay the same where you are, you have to replace that 30% that move. And that's where, Google Ads comes in. First time that person comes into the area they move in, they're going on their phone, they're putting in laundromat near me, and you want to bring them over to your store. After that, then you can get into paid ads on Facebook and Instagram to make people aware of your brand. Like, hey, you can drop off your comforter at our store and we'll do it for you. Just that brand awareness. And then that can be tied in, again, to your website. Someone visits your website, we can remarket them and serve them ads on Facebook. And after that, you're still growing. You have maybe a few stores. We'll fly out to your store. We'll fly out to your location. We'll do a bunch of video content for you. And we'll put together a whole social content calendar for an entire year of real content. And that real content is really what makes the difference between us and other agencies. Is we are skilled in making that content, and that real content is what connects to your customer. Without that real content, there's no relationship between you and your customer. And that's what you want. You want that relationship so that they are loyal to you. So if they do have a bad experience, it's not that they're done and they're gone to another store. No, they have this relationship with you. All right, I had a bad experience, but I'm going to come back, give these guys another try, and continue using them as my laundromat. So we offer like a variety of different services. we can use, if you have a card system, we can use that data from your card system. There's a lot of different things that we can do. Again, because even though we're just doing laundromats, our sister company, Colossus Media Group, they do large campaigns for national companies, regional companies. So the tools that we have that normally only the big guys have, we can bring down and use for you at your individual store or chain of stores. Like we were recently out to Joe Dan Reed, to his stores out in Kentucky. We had a great time out there in the summer, and you can see some of the stuff we made for him, and we have fun doing it. Like if we don't like doing it, there's no point in doing it. And um, so Dom and Rocco, they're also laundry guys. They only do pickup and delivery, and they have a processing plant out in Philadelphia, and they do like a stupid amount of residential pickup and delivery from there, and they're really successful at that. So everything that we offer to laundromat owners is stuff that we use and do for ourselves, and that's why we're different than other folks.
Yeah, the best products and services come out of our own needs and solving our
Yeah,
own
yeah.
problems usually. And then we figure out other people have similar issues, similar problems, and we say, hey, we figured this out. Let's help you out with it. That's awesome. Suds Digital is out there. If you haven't checked them out yet, is it just sudsdigital.com?
Yep, that's it.
Cool. And we'll have the link to that and everything else in today's show in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. Or if you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description. So as you go down there, hit that subscribe button and then go down to the description. Check out all those links. Dude, so much good stuff. And that marketing piece, just to touch on it real quick from my perspective, I mean, it is right now, I think in a lot of markets, it's the low hanging fruit here. There's more and more laundromat owners utilizing marketing, more probably than ever before now, but still, relatively speaking, not that many laundromat owners are utilizing a professional marketing strategy for their laundromat or laundromats. So that is, again, man, that is a way to get ahead right
It's
now
like one
and
thing
to scale
I
and grow
tell
your
people.
business.
It's like you just spend how much money either buying that store or building that store, right? You picked the perfect spot. You looked at all the machines. You got everything set up, and after this huge investment, you're not going to let the customer base know about this great store that you have. It's kind of like backwards. Like you don't want to cheap out on your marketing because you're really is going to cost you more in the long run if you try to cheap out on your marketing. You have this huge investment. Whether it's us, anybody, you need to maximize that investment, and marketing is one of the easiest ways, to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things I talk about in my first experience, I spent all this
Yeah.
money rehabbing the laundromat that I
Yeah.
bought and retooling it, all new equipment, and I spent $0 on the reputation of that laundromat, like, and letting people know I did all this work and letting people know that things were different now than they were before because there's new management. I spent $0 on that, and guess what?
Yes.
I struggled for a long time because of it. And again, one of the lessons that I learned, and one of the things I would do differently if I had that to do over again. But like we talked about earlier on, problems are just opportunities in disguise. So
Exactly.
yeah, so that's how it went. We've got a segment of the podcast called, what segment are we going to do?
Oh,
Oh, called Pro Tips, which is I couldn't remember if we did secret sauce or pro tips, and now I am thinking we do secret sauce first. But we're going to do pro tips first today, and that is, what advice do you have for people who are brand new trying to get into this business? What's your number one tip you could give to them?
yeah. If you're looking to get in, like, you just have to start. Like, if you don't start, it doesn't matter. It's great to watch shows like this, to read all the Facebook groups and all that. But you have to start. And you're going to learn a lot more starting than you are from sitting on the sidelines. You can't wait for the perfect time, because there's never going to be a perfect time, right? You start that process, it's going to take you a lot longer than you think it is, but you have to start looking at different stores. And listen, you'll see stores that maybe you have no interest in really even buying it, right? But go through the process of, all right, this is where the store is located, this is the competition, and what do you see from the customer's point of view when you're driving to that store, when you're parking your car, when you're walking in. Look at everything from the customer's point of view. And if you were going there to wash and dry your clothes, how would you feel? And just start that process. Like I said, it doesn't even matter if this is a store you're crazy about or not, but just start this process, and it's going to set you up. So now, when you do find that store that you actually like or want, now you're not scrambling, you're not rushing. You know what you're looking for, you know what you want. You kind of have an idea of how to evaluate the store. And if you don't start, you're never going to be ready. That's my pro tip.
Dude, I love that tip. I'm always saying, hey, none of this means anything unless you go. I'll say it at the outro here too. None of it means anything unless you go put it into action, because that's the only thing that's gonna help you achieve your goals and your dreams and the life that you want to build for yourself is the action. So don't get stuck in that learning loop and not take action. I love that. That's
Exactly.
great. All right, let's do secret sauce now. And secret sauce is, hey, maybe what's your number one tip for somebody who owns a laundromat or pickup and delivery service, uh, that, or maybe it's something you're doing that you think other people could do to help them improve their business. What's your best tip for those of us who own laundromats?
It's may sound a little stupid, but it's just being consistent. Like, it's really being consistent, especially in the world of wash and fold and pickup and delivery. It's consistency. If you're delivering a really good product one week and then the next week you're not, well, that's a problem. Like, again, as an owner, like, you can learn all this stuff you want to do and try and all this and that, but if you don't do it consistently, it doesn't it doesn't matter. You have to do it. You have to do it consistently, and that's what makes the real difference.
Yeah. Confessional time. That consistency is one of the things that I struggle with. I've definitely got that sort of entrepreneurial, shiny object. I love starting things
Yep.
and building things and creating things. And that consistency on the back end of just continually to,
And I'm saying it to
maintain.
myself,
It's so,
too. It's like,
yeah,
you
it's
always want
so
that new
hard.
thing, but keep what you
Yeah.
have steady, because that's important. Without that, then it doesn't matter that other project or whatever. You know.
Yeah, it's critical and it's so difficult for me. And in fact, it and if you're out there, maybe you're sort of that visionary type, you're that like starting new things,
Yeah.
tough to finish or follow through on them. Like that's definitely how I am wired. You know, part of for me, part of my journey has been muscling through that to get to a point where I can actually bring somebody else on to manage and oversee that consistency. And that has been a game changer for me, because life was just it just felt so like so much friction trying to maintain that consistency
Yep.
for me.
Yep.
And it affected like my psyche even.
Yeah.
Like it's just struggling. It made me feel like I wasn't good at anything. And but really like playing to your strengths and getting to a point where you can bring somebody on to help compensate the weaknesses, is key there. But I think that secret sauce is spot on. That consistency, whether it's self serve or wash and fold or pick up and delivery, any of those, like that consistent and consistently good. That maybe that's
Yeah,
an
well, again, if
implied
you have a
caveat
staff
there.
member
Consistently
that
good.
opens up late every once in a while, well, how do you think the customers feel that are coming there at 6 in the morning to go wash their clothes? And now all of a sudden,
Yep.
oh, I'm waiting in my car, 15 minutes for, you know, the staff member to open the store. You know, you got to open the store the same time every day. That's like standard. Like that has to if you got a problem, all right, you put in automatic opening doors, right, or something. So you have that consistent open time, that consistent close time. Again, self service side, the store is consistently clean. Okay, it's great. All right, every Wednesday the store is clean. Well, fantastic. What about all the other days of the week? It needs to be consistently kept clean. You know, I love. Sometimes I'll go to one of the stores and I'll say, "Oh, well, I just cleaned up. Like a half hour ago." Well, I understand that, but it needs to be done again, because
Hmm.
we serve the public and it's constantly being used. So we need to keep that clean appearance. That's we are in the business of cleanliness and convenience. So
Ah, that's money advice. So good, so good. All right, last segment we have of the podcast is recommended resources. You got any resources that you'd recommend for us to help us improve ourselves and or our businesses?
yeah, I mean, I'll I'll plug myself for on the marketing side. I honestly believe that my team and I can really help grow your store and grow your business and take it to the next level. And if you want to find out more, you can go to sudsdigital.com. There's a little contact form there. Fill it out, and we'll tell you, all about us and what we think we could do for you. Um, I would say, other resources in general, like your show is a great show. Dave's show is a great show. Um, and then, you know, follow like Luke on Instagram, Luke Williford on Instagram. They also have a show of their own as well, the Williford brothers. Um, put yourself around, you know, good people, right? Um, because when you put yourself around these good people, the character that they have is gonna kind of come off on you. And you know, if you're not hanging out with, you know, the top operators, the top people, it's going to be difficult to achieve, what you want to achieve because it kind of changes like your mindset, right? If you hang out with and this is like kind of in life in general, right? If you hang out with a rough and tumble crowd, you're going to be more rough and tumble, right? If you start hanging out at different restaurants and, you know, you're going to meet different people from different walks of life. And you're going to get a different perspective and learn to see things a different way. Um, so whether it's business, personal, you want to kind of watch who you hang out with, who you associate with, because what you put in your brain is going to help shape who you are. What you watch on social media and all that. It goes to shape you more. I think it shapes people more than they realize.
Ah, man, that is so good. It's the whole you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Quote. And I like believe that so firmly. And I've mentioned this before, but I spend, five figures a year right now and being in part of groups of people who are high performers, high achievers, thinking big, because that's the kind of person that I want to be. And in order to be that, I've got to surround myself with that kind of people. And, just quick plug too, if you're trying to get into this business or you're in this business, you're trying to grow your business, joining a mastermind group, we have those that you can join. It's included in the pro community. You can come join a mastermind group or form your own mastermind group. You don't have to do it through any organization or anything. We just kind of make it more convenient for you. But like, I just think I'm so on board with what you're saying
Yeah,
here
no,
in
but
terms of putting yourself
like your
around.
mastermind group is like really a really good example, right? Because you know, how else would these different operators get together and talk? And because ideally, like, all right, I don't want to call the guy down the street from me. I want to, talk to someone that I'm not competing with. And you know, your mastermind group is a great way to do that because you can talk comfortably and freely and not kind of worry about, let's say, that competition and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seriously, man, it's a game changer for me just in my life personally. And I think it's been a game changer. I think right now we have, in our community, I think we have 14 or 15 different mastermind groups going. And the benefits are, you almost can't even put a number on the number of benefits because it just integrates into who you become. And we were talking about this like right in the beginning of the podcast, right? Like part of this is like who we become along this journey. And I would say, yeah, actually who we become and who we're becoming is the journey. We just happen to be on this laundry path, as part of like what's shaping us. But really, the thing is like who are we becoming, and like, you nailed it. Like we surround ourselves with has a huge impact on who we are and who we're becoming, and who we will become. So, dude, I loved your pro tip, your secret sauce, your recommended resource. That's money. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story, which was incredible. I was just blown away, by that whole debacle with your location. And now I suspect I know the reason why the guy decided to seller finance that laundromat, because that lease probably a big part of it. But sharing your story was great, but so much good wisdom and just sound advice. And I I just can hear and feel in your story like that wisdom is a lot of hard earned wisdom. And for all of us listening to your story, like it would behoove us to take that wisdom to heart and learn the hard lessons that you paid for with blood, sweat, and tears to earn, and offering it to us for free on this interview. So huge thank you. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
People want to get in contact with you, maybe ask you some questions, or maybe they're interested in Suds Digital. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so if you just want to network with me, the best way is on Facebook. Um, if you have like more questions about like what we can do marketing wise for you, just go to our website, sudsdigital.com. There's a contact form right there. Fill that out, and we'll tell you what we think would work best for you.
Awesome. Again, we'll link to that in the show notes and on YouTube uh, in the description. So, Charles, man, again, thank you so much. I'm glad we finally got this thing done.
You're welcome.
And to be candid, like this has been worth the wait. So I appreciate you spending the
I
time
met
with
and
me
exceeded
on
all your
this.
expectations.
Exceeded, yeah, far exceeded expectation. Well, I had pretty high
Yeah.
expectations, so I can't say far exceeded because they were already high, but you exceeded them nonetheless. I appreciate that. And hey, man, we got to do some stuff in person, so maybe I'll have to head out to Jersey here pretty soon and come check out your stuff.
Come on,
That'd be
it'll be
great.
fun. It'll be fun. There's
I
there's
know.
a handful of really good operators right around here, so you know we'll show you a good time.
Yeah, let's make a thing of it. That'd be fun. Let's do that. Awesome, man, and looking forward to talking about doing a Q&A maybe here, huh?
Yeah, I
So
think
looking
that'd be
forward to that.
cool. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, if we get that situated, and hopefully by the time this comes out, we will have, and you will have heard about it in the intro. So, yeah, looking forward to doing that, and who knows what else, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. You have a good rest of the day.
Likewise. All right, hope you love that with Charles Measley. What a wild ride of moving a laundromat to a new location. Very time consuming, very expensive, but Like the title says, drastic times call for drastic measures. So kudos to Charles for making the bold decisions and the bold move, and then bringing some good out of it too, with developing a marketing company to help other owners. And I dude love everything he's got going on. So make sure you check all that out. And the show notes are at laundromatresource.com/show 142, where you can get all the links. If you're on YouTube, down below in the description, make sure you hit that subscribe button and maybe a like and comment. How about that? Let me know what you thought about Charles's interview. All right. All right. We'll see you next week. Peace.